Hello, I'm Mary, and today we are doing lesson number 2 in our Eat More Plants program. The Eat More Plants program is going to be telling you why it helps the environment and our planet and to eat more plants. And it's actually quite complicated. That's why this program is going to have 12 art lessons, each one explaining different things about climate change so you can understand. Anyways, today's lesson, we learned last time about climate change, and part of climate change is greenhouse gases. Now, so today we're going to do a lesson called Greenhouse Gas Oil Pastel Landscape. We're going to do landscapes, and we're going to show the greenhouse gases in the landscapes. But before we do that, we kind of need to understand greenhouse gases. So the biggest greenhouse gas that takes up most of the gases in the environment is carbon dioxide. That's the one you hear about all the time. That's 76% of the greenhouse gases. There's 3 other ones that take up less amount, but the thing that's complicated is each type of gas has a drastically different potential to cause global warming. And I had trouble, it's complicated, like I said, I had trouble getting my head around that. So what I did was I made a chart, and this I think will help you too. So you can refer back to this when we get to the part of the lesson where we're going to be writing this information on our landscape. But you can see here are 4 major types of greenhouse gases: carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbon, and chlorofluorocarbon. And you can see here, this is the scientific formula for each. This is the percentage of the total. And you can see, like I said, carbon dioxide is most. And then if you get down here, this is only 2%, these guys. But the thing that you have to know is that they don't have the same potential for global warming. So, carbon dioxide is 76%. Methane is only 16%, but methane is 34 times has 34 times more global warming potential than CO2. If you look at nitrous oxide, it has 310 times more global warming potential than CO2. If you look at the hydros, HFC and CFC, they're only 2%, but they have 1,000 to 9,000 times more global warming potential than CO2. So that's a lot of information to think about. And the last column is, where do these gases come from? So carbon dioxide comes from industry, cars, planes, things like that. And you've heard about this. Methane comes from agriculture, cow burps, cow farts. Nitrous oxide comes from agriculture, also animal pee, animal poo, fertilizer. And then the last one, the hydrofluorocarbons, come from refrigerators and air conditioners. So this is an overview of the greenhouse gases. Now let's get to the fun part. The fun part is our greenhouse gas landscapes. So with oil pastels. So I'm going to show you a couple examples of what they're going to look like. There's one. And for each landscape, you're going to have a foreground, which in this case is the flowers, a midground, which in this case is a big wave, and a background, which is the sun and all the greenhouse gases. Here's a second example. In this case, the foreground is these basic shaped trees. Midground is the hills. The background is the sky split into 4 sections with the sun. And then my last example, the foreground is just houses. The midground is green hills. And the background is the sky split into 4 sections to show the greenhouse gases. All right, so what materials are you going to need? You're going to need a black piece of paper that is 12 inches by 9 inches. You're going to need oil pastels. And oil pastels, can you see those? I'll show you one. look a lot like crayons and they work a lot like crayons. In fact, if you don't have oil pastels, you can use crayons. And you're definitely going to need black and then as many other bright colors as you can find. And you'll need a pencil, and you'll need a black color pencil also. All right, so those are the materials. So let's get started. The first step is talking about the foreground, the midground, and the background. So what I have in my handy dandy dry erase board is some examples. So get situated here. For the foreground, you have some choices. You have shape trees, and here I have triangles, ovals, rectangles, any weird shape you want to create a forest looking along the bottom of the page. You could have flowers along the bottom of the page. The thing about the flowers is you have to remember you're using an oil pastel, and it is not sharp. It doesn't have a fine point like a pencil. It's fatter. So you want to create spaces that are larger so you can fit your oil pastel in there and color them in. So you can see my petals on this, they have pretty big petals. So you don't want to get tiny petals. And then the last is rectangle houses is a choice. And you can see these are all rectangles. This one kind of has a notch on it and goes up. So you can do all different sizes of rectangle houses. What I did, so the houses had more color because I love color. I gave each house a door. And I gave, when I did those and I colored them in, I gave the roof and the door and the house each a different color. So those are your choices for the foreground. Then your choices for the midground, you could do waves, and a wave is simply drawing a kind of a hook and then going back and down, drawing a hook and back and down. And then I split up my waves with some lines in them so I could add more color. You can choose not to do that if you want, but you can see here I've got some purple, turquoise, different colors in my wave. Mountains, which are just triangles, or hills, which are just arches. So this would be your midground. And then for your background area, you can have a sun or not a sun. You can see on this one, oops, which one is it? This one, I chose not to have a sun, but in this one, I chose to have a sun with rays coming out of it. So you make a choice of sun or no sun for your background, and then you're going to take the whole sky area and split it into 4 sections, decreasing in size. Like carbon dioxide is the most amount of greenhouse gases, it's 76, and then the other 3 are smaller. So kind of split your sky like that. If it's not exactly like that and decreasing in size because it doesn't work with your composition, that's okay too. So here I took horizontal lines and I split up the sky into 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. Here I split up the sky into 4 sections by having section 1 be the background and section 2, 3, and 4 being clouds. Here I split up the sky with just diagonal lines. Here I did arches, so 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. And here I did arching lines over the sun, creating 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. Because we have 4 major types of greenhouse gases. All right, so let's move to our blank dry erase board. Now you're going to start out with a pencil, and you're going to use pencil to sketch your foreground, your midground, and your background. Then you'll go over the pencil once it's what you want in a black oil pastel. All right, so we're going to start out with our blank. Now you get your pencil, and let's do this. So what do we think? I think I'm going to start out with a shape forest. So I'm going to do some trees, rectangle trees, ovals, circles, some background trees, and then a weird shaped tree like this, and another one like this. So you're gonna do better trees than that, but they're kind of fun, all different shapes. Now I think for the background, for the midground, I'm going to do the hills. I'm gonna do really big hills. Like that. So there's my midground. Now one thing I want you to notice is that I'm closing the shapes. I'm because I'm gonna fill them in with color and I don't want them floating. So I don't have this just like that. I have all the shapes, if I can, create closed spaces so I can fill those spaces in with one color. So as you're creating the foreground and the midground, make sure that you create closed spaces that you can fill in with one color. So now I'm in my background. So I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to have a sun. So I'm gonna put a sun in the corner. I'm gonna give it some rays, and my rays are gonna be kind of flower petal-y or wavy, flamey. You can do whatever kind of wave, whatever kind of sun rays you want. Yours will be better than mine. Those are kind of crazy. Now I have to choose how I want to break up my sky. Okay? And I am thinking I'm going to do diagonal lines starting from here. I'm going to go up like that. So that's my smallest area. It's going to be my fluorocarbons. And then my next area. So 1, 2 areas. And then my last. So I've got 3 lines. And 1, 2, 3, 4 areas. All right, so at this point, what you want to do is you want to go back with your black oil pastel and draw over everything you did in pencil. So then you have nice black outlines to fill in with color. All right, put this away. So now I've got my whole landscape outlined. So the next thing I want to think about is color. And I really want to give color some thought. And think about the groupings I'm doing for each section of color. So let's say for the foreground, I may want to only do cool colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn over my black piece of artwork and I'm going to do little scribbles to actually see what color the oil pastel is, and maybe to get all the black gunk that's on my oil pastel that's not the actual color. And also you can tear the paper off there to really get a better look at it. So I use the back to kind of see what colors look good together. But be thinking for each section, you might want to think about a palette. So you say, let's say I want to do all warm colors for the sun, like I did right there. Or let's say you want to do all cool colors in the sky, which I did here. Or let's say I want to do light colors. Now, light colors in the sky is a really good plan actually, because I haven't talked about it, but I highly recommend that you consider only a palette of light colors for the sky, because when you write with your color pencil, the black that's in the background shows up better. The writing shows up better if you use lighter colors, versus you can see here that carbon dioxide section doesn't show up quite, those words don't show up quite as well as they did on the lighter colors, but it's up to you. Or you can do all brights. This is what I did with my flowers and on this section, and I basically tried to use all brights in this. So really give what your palette is going to be for your foreground, your midground, and your background some thought. And try it out, because you don't know till you see them together, right? Okay, so this is color. So next what you're gonna do is you are going to color them in. So let's talk about the way you're gonna color them in. I want really solid, I want you to have solid coverage. You can see this center of this, the red center of this flower. It's not scribbled, and you can't see black. You can't see little bits of black because you scribbled and did it really fast. What I did was slowly and thoroughly, completely covered in the whole center with red. And this way, your final product will be very vibrant. Be careful to leave the black outline, because you want each space differentiated so you can clearly see each space. All right, so yes, we're going to do careful, thorough filling in of the colors, so you have a vibrant, very nice looking finished product. All right, so now you've colored in your foreground, your midground, and your background with lots of vibrant colors. So now what you want to do is you want to go back to that greenhouse gas chart, and there are 5 columns of information. The name, the formula, the percentage of the total gases, the global warming potential, time, how much more global warming potential than CO2, and where it comes from. So I think if you tried to put all that information on your artwork, it might be too much. Each of you is going to have to decide what you want to put on there. I recommend no more than 4 columns worth of information. Definitely do 1 column. Definitely do the name of the greenhouse gases. If that's all you want to do, that's fine. Or you can do a 2nd column or a 3rd column, and I'll show you some examples. So for this one, all I did was write the names. And I did it with a color pencil, and I wrote right on top of the oil pastel. Now, the first time you write the word, it may not be easy to see, so what I recommend is writing over it a couple times and make each letter a little bit thicker so it's a little bit more visible. I'm going to tell you a trick. If you end up getting a letter wonky and you don't like it, you can actually erase and start over. So you can just use an eraser, erase the area that you don't like, get your oil pastel, and recolor it in what you've erased, and then take your color pencil and redraw that letter. Oil pastel actually erases. Now your eraser is going to get kind of yucky with oil pastel on it, so take the back of your page and get all the stuff off your eraser using the back of your page. So there's where I only took 1 column of information. So definitely, at a minimum, you have to, in your sky area, in your 4 sections, you have to put the name of the 4 greenhouse gases in each section. The largest section should be your carbon dioxide. The next smallest one should be methane. The next smallest should be nitrous oxide. And then this most small, in this case, I didn't do a good job of that, did I? These guys are kind of the same size, should be your fluorocarbons. Okay, so you can also put 2 columns worth of information. Like this one, you can see I have the names, and here I just used the formulas because those names are super long and that's a lot to write and that's a lot to fit into your space. And then I took a 2nd column of information, which is where those gases come from. So like on CO2, I put from industry, cows, planes, no, not cows, cars and planes. All right, so I've got the names and I've got where the gas comes from. In this one, I went ahead and included 3 columns of information. The name, the percentage, the percentage of the total amount of gases, and then the how many times more global warming potential than carbon dioxide, because that's important. And what I would like you to do is take your time on the writing part. If you need to, write what you want to write on another piece of paper and practice kind of the spacing, and then put it on your art. And again, the first time you write it, it might not show up very well. So as you write a letter, you're going to be scraping away the oil pastel, the waxy oil pastel, to show the black background, and you're going to have black pencil on there too. So just rewrite and make each letter a little bit thicker so it shows up more. All right, so that's pretty much it. The only thing you might want to do at the very end, if you have time, and you feel like a lot of your black outlining got covered over by color, you could go over all your black lines in oil pastel one more time if you really wanted to. But I didn't need to, so you might not either. All right, that is our greenhouse gas landscape oil pastel lesson, and as you can see, they're really bright and fun and educational. I cannot wait to see yours.